Okay, why can't we divide by zero? That's what this video is going to talk about. It's really quite straightforward, and let's take a look at it. First of all, there's some basic information about division that you need to know. A division problem, first of all, can have only one answer. I think everybody pretty much knows that. And you can always check that answer by doing a multiplication. So you can always tell whether or not the answer to your division problem is correct by multiplying the answer times the divisor. And number three, there are some division problems that actually have no answer. And also there are some that have many answers. Now, this number three is not something that we're really used to. So let's take a look at this a little bit further. All right, so this is what we mean. If we try to take 0 and divide it by 3, or 5, or 7, or any number, okay, the answer does turn out to be 0, because 0 times 3 is equal to 0. So there's no question about that the answer is 0, and the answer checks. Now, if we take any number other than 0 and divide it by 0, for example, if we took something like 3 and divided it by 0, we'd wind up with this in our calculator. You've seen this before, either error, sometimes you see E depending upon the calculator, error, overflow, division by 0, error. Something is not right, okay? And that's because there is no answer here. There's absolutely no possible answer. Any number that you put right here as the answer, when you multiply it by 0, whatever this x would be, when you multiply it by 0, you'll never get 3. Okay? And since we cannot come up with any answers, we say the fraction is undefined. The fraction itself is undefined. Not really the answer to the problem, but the fraction turns out to be something called undefined. Now, if I go now and finally take something like 0 and divide it by 0, again, if you try this on your calculator, you're going to get an error message because you're dividing by 0. I don't know if you know this, but 0 really works, and so does any number that you come up with. 712 is also an answer. 1.5 is an answer. Why? Because every one of these answers, when multiplied by 0, gives you 0. Okay? So every single number checks. So this is that strange problem, 0 divided by 0, where there's a whole bunch of infinite number of answers, actually. Yeah, and the math gods are indeed upset. Okay? So we have a special name for this. We say that this fraction is indeterminate and that there are an infinite number of answers. Indeterminate. A fraction is indeterminate because we can't really determine what the answer is. We know there are answers and there are an infinite number of them, so we say it's indeterminate. Remember before, when we had no answers, we called the fraction undefined. You might say, well, when does this really happen? Well, for most of us who are working in the real world and in our day-to-day jobs, in whatever capacity, this really never comes up. But in more advanced areas of mathematics, calculus is one of them. Mathematicians see this all the time, where they have something like 0 divided by 0, or something like 3 divided by 0, and they're able to deal with that in a very abstract way. And so they come up not necessarily with answers, but meanings for those particular fractions. Anyway, that's what it's all about. That's what dividing by 0, why we shouldn't do it, and some of the other options and what really are our options.